This is Rich Straffolino with the Department of No. Now, Montez Fitzpatrick, CISO over at Navis, I got to ask, what is your priority this week?
Well, the audits never stop rolling there, Rich. Always great to see you. And getting into conference season. So got to wear my Sunday best.
Audits and conferences. I mean, it's really what we got into this industry for, right? If nothing else.
That's why I'm here.
So I mean, it is job security, so that at least one half of it is, so that's nice. And then we also have on the show today cybersecurity expert and author of Note, Peter Gregory. Got to ask, Peter, what is your priority this week?
Well, let's see. It kind of splits into two, Rich. First, I'm reviewing some processes and tooling for a cybersecurity startup that I am an advisor for. And then writing-wise, I'm finishing up a draft of the third edition of my CISM study guide and finishing up proofing for two other books that'll be out in a couple of months.
We've got two busy people on the show today. Appreciate making the time to be on the show. Let's not keep them waiting. Producer Steve, let's run that opening.
From the CISO series, it's Department of No.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to the Department of No, your virtual Monday strategy meeting. Our sponsor for today is Adaptive Security. Protect your company from deep fake-powered phishing. Remember, you can get involved in our YouTube live chat. We broadcast every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you join us. If you're not here this Monday, join us next Monday. We would love to have you here. Or you can email us feedback@cisoseries.com. We would love to hear from you regardless. Before we jump into our conversations for today, some of our news items, just a quick reminder, the opinions expressed on the show are in fact those of our guests, not necessarily those of their employers, their friends, families, nemesis, really anyone else, just them. We've got about 30 minutes, so we're going to dive in, starting out here with our No or No segment. This is where there's so much news out there. We don't have time to dive into deep, long conversations on each one of these, but they're still important. We need to know if there's something that we need to maybe double click on. Like, I mean, hey, maybe we should read this. Just know the headline. Is that good enough? No or no, that's what it's here for. First up here, Google patches a Chrome 0 day. Google issued an emergency patch for Chrome's first 0 day of 2026. Hey, cheers. We made it all the way to February, everybody. It was a high severity use after free flaw in the browser's CSS handling. The bug was already being exploited in the wild before the fix, hence the whole high severity emergency patch thing. Patches have since been rolled out. I got to know, though, is a use after free vulnerability like this a no a little more, or no thank you for you, Montez?
No little more. Use after free bugs are just that warm blanket. And I think with the current state of the compilers and languages there, we're going to have use after free as a potential vulnerability for a long time to come.
Peter, what about you? Are you double clicking on this story? Are you going deep on the details here? Or is this okay? I got the idea here. I installed the patch.
I've got it. We see this stuff all the time. I mean, this is our business, right? And on this one, I really don't like vulnerabilities on browsers because they're controlled by end users, and browser isolation has never looked so good.
All right, next up here, Copilot summarizes confidential emails. A code bug in Microsoft 365 Copilot caused the AI to summarize emails marked confidential since late January. Microsoft says this was a code error and began rolling out a fix earlier this month. Code errors in AI applications. Do we file this under no a little more or no thank you? What about you, Peter?
No a little more. Boy, Microsoft just it seems like they just keep fumbling the ball, right? Are they really messing up this often, or are they just the company that we love to hate these days? At any rate, some AI use cases are just not ready for prime time, and this underscores the need for AI governance so that organizations have a much clearer idea of what they're getting into, and so that they can get to the outcomes they want.
I just want to say, as a former Linux hippie, it's never been a bad time to hate Microsoft. So I just want to rebut that there was ever a time that's not cool to do that. But Montez, for you, do you want to know a little more about this, or is it no thanks for you?
Absolutely know a little more. The Microsoft, and I quote, they said that Microsoft has since confirmed an unspecified code error is responsible. I would like a little more information. I think this would be an opportunity for the great empire of Microsoft to help teach us. So what was the issue? Is it a grounding issue? Is it something else? Like there could be some real tangible benefit from a knowledge sharing perspective that could really help out security teams on wherever they are on their AI spectrum.
I do want to shout out, though, that Apple was really leading the industry here of unhelpfully summarizing all of my emails with Siri. So at least Microsoft, another classic example, Microsoft ripping off unwanted features from Apple. So very classic there. Next up here, threat actor exploits Dell Zero Day. Researchers at Mandiant and Google say a suspected China-linked threat group has been exploiting a critical zero day in Dell Recover Point for virtual machines, catchy name, since at least mid-2024, which, if you check your calendars, is a while ago. The hard-coded credential flaw allows unauthenticated attackers to gain root-level access, move laterally, maintain persistence, and deploy malware, aka yeesh. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about hard-coded credential flaws? Montez, do you want to know a little more, or no thanks?
Definitely want to know a little more. And can I say oops on this one? Code auditing issues, maybe? There's the often quoted by me is the we are bitten by the specter of there's nothing more permanent than something temporary that works. And
Ooh, that is beautiful. Oh, that is going in the book of quotes.
There you
Montez,
go.
that is lovely. That is absolutely lovely. Peter, what about you? You need to know a little more about this, or is it no thanks for you?
Oh, it's know a little more. Hard-coded credentials? Really? It's 2026. OWASP cited this as a poor practice 16 years ago. What an embarrassment on Dell's part. I hope for their sake that at least if this is really old code, but it may not be.
That's almost what it has to be, right? I mean, some version of, I'm sure it's Dell. I'm sure there's been some version of Recover Point for 20 years or something like that. So
Right.
But which is also terrifying that this just is. We've only discovered it since mid 2024, but it's bad in a different way. But yeah, that was kind of where my mind was at too here, Peter. All right, next up here, and our last one for Know or No, identity abuse behind most attacks. Palo Alto's Unit 42 found that identity-based techniques were behind roughly 2/3 of all initial network access in 2025. Social engineering was the most common method, but compromised credentials, poor identity policies, insider threats, and good old brute force attacks were all in the mix as well. Nothing new to this story, except for the fact that it's still happening. I need to know, Peter, for you, does this qualify as no a little more, or no thank you for you?
No thanks. This is not new news. Traditional authentication has been broken for decades, and this is just the latest example. We know what we need to do.
Wait, I'm curious, when you see reports like this, are these kind of reports useful for getting buy-in for identity? If your organization, you don't feel like is taking this seriously enough, are these reports good for getting business buy-in, or are these just, hey, turns out Palo Alto's selling some stuff to, is this marketing for them? Admittedly, Unit 42 is a legitimate security researcher, not besmirching their efforts here. How do you read that?
Oh, I think that it's helpful. Again, this is getting down to basics in identity and access management. Organizations really need to step up their game, especially with everybody going to the cloud. And, we don't have those traditional perimeter defenses anymore. And organizations are, in some cases, have not caught up to that mindset.
Montez, for you, is this no a little more or no thanks for you?
At risk of, breaking our agreement streak there, I have to say no a little more on this one.
Okay.
For one reason only, and I think our reasons are actually probably the same. And I think that this really illustrates that we have to get the simple, basic things right. And we have to be reminded every now and again that if we don't get the simple, basic things correct, then really nothing else matters. So what is the point behind having, several $1 million worth of security tooling that if I can ask one of your employees what their username and password is and they give it to me, we have to, again, like I said, so if we don't get it right, if we don't get this right, the rest of it sort of doesn't matter. So.
Yeah, it's a confirmation that the basics still matter and also are still hard for many organizations, or hard to live up to for a lot of organizations. So I think two sides of the same coin there. I kind of like that. All right, before we move on to our larger discussions of the day, I have to spend a few moments and thank our sponsor for today, Adaptive Security. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive Security, the first security awareness platform built to stop AI-powered social engineering. AI is changing phishing because persuasion now scales like code. And it's not just email anymore. Attackers hit SMS, voice calls, and multi-step scams that jump channels. Adaptive runs AI-powered phishing simulations across email, SMS, and voice, including OSINT-based spear phishing and BEC-style scenarios, so employees practice what attacks look like. Learn more at adaptivesecurity.com. All right, let's dig in here. One of the big ones here, compromised password managers. This definitely got a lot of attention this week. Researchers in Europe found multiple weaknesses in Bitwarden, LastPass, and Dashlane that could expose passwords if the service's servers were compromised. Like physically, those machines were compromised despite their zero-knowledge claims. At the heart of this is their use of a malicious server model, which led to a password disclosure or vault changes. The researchers said legacy cryptography and unclear threat models contributed to the issues. This appears to be an area of encryption that's either not fully understood, not well implemented here. The fact that all three companies thanked the researchers rather than refuting them, I guess, certainly lends some credence to the claims here. I'm curious, what are your thoughts, Peter, when you saw this? Is this working like how it's supposed to, right? Like, hey, security researchers found a vulnerability, companies responded. Like, that's not a bad thing overall, right?
That's how it's supposed to work, Rich. And as you say, if they responded and the vulnerabilities were identified responsibly, the vendors fixed them responsibly. That's how this is all supposed to work. But stepping back a little bit, we also have to realize that password managers are going to be a target for obvious reasons, right? I've used them for years, but the risks are much higher. So the bar has to be much higher for software like this.
Montez, for you, are we giving enough scrutiny to password managers? I'm thinking of other like consumer level technology that's accessible to consumers, right? Like end-to-end encrypted messaging, right? There's no end of audits that have been done to say like, oh, like Signal and Telegram, or choose service. Here's how they're doing with encryption. I don't hear that same type of scrutiny with password managers. It seems to be they're all pretty good-ish, better than just writing down passwords, or better than using one password all the time, not the service 1Password. But Montez, for you, are we giving these enough scrutiny?
Wow, that's a great question. I obviously probably not, since with the open of this, we're talking about an avenue that's potentially a little understood. When in the whole world here, we are in the business of keeping secrets, right? And I think that this particular domain of how we keep our secrets is going to come under fire, right? So you have the whole looming threat of post-quantum cryptanalysis, right? Which is the, harvest now and decrypt later, which is pretty scary, right? Mm. And then, so just like the often misquoted, Abraham Lincoln, right? It's not me who can't keep a secret. It's the people I tell that can't. So there you go.
It was interesting in some of I think it was the Register I was reading this on, and they were kind of talking about like a lot of the password manager. I know LastPass got in trouble with this a number of times, where they're trying to service very legacy customers, right? And they don't want to be like, hey, you have to change your password. You signed up in 2009 or whatever, and you had a 8-character password. Or we don't want to transfer your vault because we don't want to risk you losing access to all of your passwords. And so there's a lot of, I was surprised at the idea of something like a password manager having to manage their own technical debt, not just from their servers, but just on the whole architecture and stuff like that. Like that was something that I never even considered as that's a consumer problem, right? They don't want to upset their consumers, so they're making compromises to kind of their core value in some way. I was very surprised by that.
I think maybe this harkens back to that. This hasn't, the accessibility versus security slider has been, still reigns supreme there. It remains unbroken as a theoretical, concept there. And, being able to share passwords and, escrow, to be able to do key sharing and whatever backdoors that Rich entices these organizations to put in for him is, those are faults there that they have to contend with, and potential weaknesses there.
All right, next story here. Another one that was getting a ton of run in the last couple of days. Anthropic announces embedded security scanning for Claude. This new feature can scan a user's software code bases for vulnerabilities and suggest patching solutions. It has seen a year of internal stress testing conducted by the company and an outside vendor. Anthropic says that as vibe coding becomes more widespread, the demand for automated vulnerability scanning will exceed the capacity of manual security reviews. This is my shocked face for that disclosure. But in addition to this, being possibly a new frontier in security scanning, it had the additional effect of sideswiping the stock market, at least for a little while here, with cybersecurity stocks of CrowdStrike, Okta, Cloudflare, going down by up to double digits on this news here. That's an issue in itself, maybe a little bit outside our purview here. But Peter, from your perspective, a pretty big news. Anthropic and Claude rolling this out. Is this? Should we read anything to the market reaction immediately from this?
I don't think so, Rich. We got to remember that there's so much personal money in the stock market that it doesn't always make sense to pay attention to one day's ups or downs, because we don't know whether those are wise, educated, informed institutional investors, or if it's e-traders and so forth reacting emotionally to things, because the two kinds of reactions are vastly different. But on the development itself, I'd say that the security vendor field is highly dynamic. AI is eating the world and disrupting virtually every industry. And this is just all part of that disruption, the ripples in the pond that are crisscrossing and looking chaotic, because it is chaotic.
Montez, for you, are you surprised? I feel like this news is not surprising, right? Like Claude is so popular and so dynamic because it's been so integrated into software development. This seems, I don't know, just like a fairly natural extension. Admittedly, they've been testing it for a year, right? Are you surprised that they rolled out this capability, or more surprised at how people are reacting to it?
I'll tell you, Rich, are you telling me that we perhaps need some AI assistance to help fix the coding issues that we created by using AI vibe coding?
Wait a minute. Are you saying an AI company wants to sell you an AI solution to a problem that their AI caused?
I would have never saw that coming.
Reminds me of Microsoft selling security software, right, to protect us from the flaws in their designs.
Go ahead,
I am always skeptical when I see the AI turtles. I call it AI turtle stacking, right? Because at some point you don't see where it started, and it's just, we need the AI to do the AI thing to defeat the AI thing, right? At some level.
Rich, it's turtles all the way down, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's at some we are approaching where we can no longer see turtles. Is what at the start of turtles. Like 2 years ago we saw the floor and we're like, you know what? Could use some turtles. Let's build them up here.
I will say one thing that, especially when I look at old code or something that I've put together as I have a ton of projects and absolutely dearth of things that I've started with the best of intentions but never finished. But sometimes I go back and take a look at some of that old stuff and it's like, oh, this is when I was actually trying to be clever. I have no idea what I was doing here. But and I think that's potentially where we could get here, especially with the vibe coding there. There's a lot of clever things that could be happening and just maybe people just don't understand, because it's, for what it's worth, it is an order of magnitude more difficult to read code than it is to write it. So,
and I would say where I see this being disruptive is it's all in one interface, right? Like it's the thing that you were doing the vibe coding with can now do that, right? Like again, I would hope that would be built into if you're using this, or if you want to call them citizen developers, right? If we're rolling this kind of code creation into a more formalized process, right? You would hope that there was some kind of, whether it's LLM enhanced or human review of what's being put out there already kind of rolled into that process. But yeah, the fact that you can kind of do it all in one interface, still though, like for anything that's going to be company facing, you would still think you'd want some company policy informed, right, approach to the scanning, right, to understand risk posture, to understand where it's falling within your wider infrastructure context, right? Like, I mean, we all know, like, not all CVEs are created equal, not all bugs are created equal, right? So to me, this doesn't necessarily by itself answer that context question, which, based on everything I've talked to security leaders about, like, that is all we want to talk about, right? Is how can this actually help me in my context? Not what is this cool capability? How does this actually help me? This doesn't necessarily answer that. It helps with some stuff, but I to me, it's not. It doesn't seem as I don't know, as revolutionary, I guess. But we will see how that plays out long term. My question is, will this still seem like a big deal in 6 months on this, or does everybody just kind of roll with this after that point?
I'd be very curious with what Peter has to say, but I think that I agree with everything that you said, Rich. I couldn't say it better myself, but then I would wonder with that, right? So how do you juxtapose that against, the business who wants to move fast, right? Who feels that we need to iterate or die, or, and so what do? I mean, not rhetorically, of course.
As fast as things are moving, I think that 6 months is almost an eternity. So many things that are other disruptive things between now and then are probably going to be even more disruptive, and we won't even remember this in 6 months.
That's the crazy thing about this whole era is it's like, you look at the timeline of like computing of like, oh, we went from hard disks to SSDs or something where there's like years between stuff, and it's like days. It feels like it's like quarter to quarter. It feels like a seismic shift with some of the capabilities that we're kind of coming across. So it is a fascinating time.
For sure, Rich. And when you said, how are we going to think about this in 6 months? I mean, our opinions might change by Friday.
That's right. And speaking of the iterations process, there, Rich, a company I advise on, they are, when they're doing their programming, they're talking about like sprint windows. They have basically daily sprint windows, which blew my mind.
CCL in our chat points out, or we could just all go to mass hysteria. And I am also not holding out that as a possibility. So thank you, CCL, for always keeping us grounded in human behavior there. All right, next up here, Texas sues TP-Link over router hack. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sued TP-Link Systems, alleging it deceptively markets its products as secure while allowing vulnerabilities that Chinese state-sponsored hackers have exploited. The lawsuit cites a 2023 report linking TP-Link firmware flaws to activity by the Camaro Dragon hacking group, and argues because many components are sourced from China, the company could be subject to Chinese intelligence laws requiring cooperation with state authorities. TP-Link, shockingly, has denied the allegations. Montez, I'm curious, from your perspective, where on the spectrum of technology problem to security theater does this fall for you?
I think it's awesome. This is potentially a real problem there, right? This is, consumer supply chain, maybe like some cloak and dagger stuff that's really beyond my, horizon to see. But, tinfoil hat, which I should have made one. But if true, right, in this post-COVID work from home kind of world that we're in, it's well played. I mean, just like, two things could be true. So like the good folks at TP-Link Systems, they're not in direct cahoots with, Chinese intelligence. However, that doesn't mean that Chinese intelligence isn't embedding little backdoors and little extra, features into the hardware that they get. So
Features.
I mean, remote access is a feature, right? It's just depending on who you're giving it to. Peter, where are you? Where does the story fall for you?
I'm deeply interested in this and being passionate about cybersecurity for individuals and companies. This is a hot mess. It's a hot mess, and it's not just TP-Link and it's not just routers. It's everything with a chip in it that we have in our house that multiplies our attack surface, and is managed by people who don't know what cybersecurity is, and they shouldn't have to know what cybersecurity is. And yet we push smart appliances and smart coffee makers and smart cars and smartphones and smart everything out to consumers, and they add to the attack surface and they get exploited. And I think that there is a solution out there. I think it's going to have to be legislated. It's going to need to be automated, because we can't expect consumers to step up and, can you see grandma going, well, I can call you in an hour because I'm patching my router today. Said no grandma ever, right?
If your grandma has said that, also feedback at CISOseries.com. I want to know. We want to give some shout outs to some grandmas or grandpas that are updating their routers. I just full credit here, but yes, Peter, I strongly suspect you are accurate there. Well, and we've seen some to kind of pull back broader onto kind of this more consumer space, IoT space. We've seen some attempts at doing some labeling laws, right? Of at point of purchase, knowing that, hey, this is good for 5 years of software updates and that kind of stuff. But even that, I don't think helps. I mean, I don't know if my router is currently out of support. Like I have no idea, I mean, I do check probably once a year if there's when something breaks on my network or my kids unplug it and then I have to go plug it back in. I'll just log back in and see if there's an update. But I would like to think I'm an informed consumer, and I don't do that on the regular. So I can't imagine, that is happening. And again, that's just purely old software. That's let alone issues of nation states possibly having backdoors and stuff like that. So I am interested to see where the discovery goes on this, right? If there's any dirty laundry, let's see this out. Texas is not the first state to do this. They're not certainly, we've seen similar legislation in other countries as well. So I like to think that this is not, optics of U.S. says China bad. You're not making anything radical there with that statement, but these are 100% legitimate issues. So I'm glad both of you were kind of highlighting those. So I am interested to see what we find out after that point. That brings us just about to the end of the show. Before we get out of here, we got to move on to my favorite segment of the show. A little something we like to call Advice Spots. Montez Fitzpatrick, based on our conversations today, a lot of heady things, a lot of AI, identity, lots of big concepts out there. IoT security, so many Gordian knots, not enough swords to swing at them. What piece of advice would you like to share with our audience, just kind of based on our conversation today? Anything that strikes you?
There is a lot of sexy stuff out there right now, but do the unsexy thing, do the simple thing. Let's get the simple, unsexy stuff right. That would be, if anything that I could share, that'd be it.
I like that. Peter, what about for you? Any parting advice for our audience?
Yeah, Rich. If I was still managing risk in telecom, and I retired from cybersecurity leadership a year ago, but if I was still managing risk, I'd be right now, this week, I'd be watching really closely for state-sponsored cyber attacks, given that the U.S. is likely going to be at war with a certain Middle East country any time now, perhaps even as we speak. And then on top of that, I'd also say, have another look at your identity and access management governance, policies, processes, controls, because they matter more than ever.
Well, thank you both so much for making the time. I know you're both busy fellas, so making the time for being on the show today. Montez Fitzpatrick, the CISO over at Navis, and Peter Gregory, best-selling author, cybersecurity expert. We'll have links to both of their LinkedIn profiles in our show notes. But Peter, what else do you have going on? Anything new in the works there?
Well, let's see, Rich. I just recently released my book on AI governance from it's a Cybex book through John Wiley, and I'm in final proofing on two other books right now. I've just been a writing machine for the past couple of years. So a couple other titles coming out. Watch for it on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Fantastic. We'll have some links to that in our show notes as well. And a big thank you to our sponsor for today, Adaptive Security. Protect your company from deepfake powered phishing. Remember, you can send us feedback at any time, feedback@cisoseries.com. Remember to join us again next Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the Department of No. To register for the live show on YouTube, just go to the CISO Series or go to cisoseries.com and click on events. Don't go to thecisoseries.com. I have no idea where that takes you, and I don't trust it. Please don't buy that URL. Thanks you so much for joining this Monday stand-up. Hope you learned something. Hope you took something home that you can bring to your teams. Maybe start a conversation about some of the news of the week. Hope you have a great week. Stay secure out there. And for myself, for our glorious producer, Steve Prentice, for the big boss man, David Spark, and the rest of the CISO Series team, here's wishing you and yours to have a super sparkly day.
Cybersecurity headlines are available every weekday. Head to CISOseries.com for the full stories behind the headlines.